You know, when we picture the baptism of Jesus, we usually see this simple, holy moment. But what if I told you it's one of the most misunderstood and honestly, one of the most radical events in the Gospels? Seriously, it's a moment that's just packed with mystery, ancient prophecy, and a mission that would change the world. So let's dive in and uncover what was really going on that day at the Jordan River. Okay, so try to picture the scene. You're at the Jordan River. There's this huge crowd of people lining up to see John the Baptist. Why? For a baptism of repentance, a symbolic washing away of sins. And then out of nowhere, Jesus of Nazareth shows up and gets in line with everybody else. And right away, this creates this huge puzzle. And that's the absolute core question, isn't it? If this whole ritual is about turning away from sin, what on earth is Jesus doing there? He's not there for a cleansing he doesn't need. So there has to be something else, something way more profound going on.
And hey, it's not just us who are confused. Even John the Baptist is totally thrown for a loop. He knows who Jesus is, and he actually tries to stop him. He basically says, whoa, this is completely backwards. I should be baptized by you. And that tells us the answer here is not obvious. To solve this mystery, we've got to look for some clues. And believe it or not, the first one is buried deep in the Old Testament.
So the first key to unlocking Jesus' baptism is to understand the kind of Messiah he came to be. And let me tell you, it was not the one most people were expecting. The prophet Isaiah gives us this shocking and completely different profile of the Messiah.
So on one hand, you've got the popular expectation, a powerful, conquering king who would free Israel with military might. But then you have Isaiah, who paints this picture of a servant. This guy isn't a warrior, he's gentle and quiet, he doesn't rule by force, he heals the weak, he's so gentle he won't even break a bent reed. I mean, it is a total 180 from what everyone was waiting for.
And Isaiah gives us the servant's job description, basically. He's supported by God's Spirit, and his mission, get this, it isn't just for Israel. It's to establish justice for all nations. And he's going to do it with gentleness and just sheer persistence, never giving up until the mission is done. But that brings us to our next clue, because that word Isaiah uses for justice or judgment is a whole other piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, when we hear the phrase judgment of God, our minds usually go to one place, right? Condemnation, a final scary verdict. But the original Hebrew word that Isaiah used meant something completely different.
And this is so important. In this context, judgment isn't about punishment. It's about setting things right. It's an act of salvation, of rescue, of liberation for people who are trapped. And once you get that, it completely changes how you read Isaiah's prophecy. I mean, just listen to this incredible language from Isaiah describing what this judgment actually looks like. It's about opening the eyes of the blind, freeing captives from their dark prisons. This isn't condemnation. It's an act of radical compassion and freedom.
Probably the best way to think about it is this. God's judgment isn't a courtroom trial. It's a prison break. It's God breaking into all the dark places and leading people out into the light. And this mission, well, it has a surprisingly wide scope.
All right, let's grab our third and final clue, this time from the book of Acts, and see how this idea gets even bigger. For a while, the early followers of Jesus thought this mission of liberation was just for their people. But then this dramatic event happens with the Apostle Peter that changes everything and shows just how big this prison break was really meant to be. Okay, here's the story in a nutshell. You've got this Roman centurion, a guy named Cornelius, who has a vision telling him to go find Peter. At the exact same time, Peter has his own really bizarre vision of all these animals that Jewish law considered unclean. And a voice tells him, what God has made clean, you shouldn't call impure. So when he finally meets Cornelius, a non-Jew who he normally wouldn't even be allowed to eat with, it all just clicks. The vision wasn't about food, it was about people.
This is Peter's massive aha moment. He just comes right out and says, I truly understand that God shows no partiality. He finally gets it. The mission isn't just for one group, it's for everyone, every nation, no exceptions. And with that final clue in our pocket, we can finally go back to the river.
So now, armed with these three clues, the servant Messiah, judgment as a prison break, and a mission for everyone, let's go back to the Jordan River and see what's really happening when Jesus steps into that water. This is it. This is the answer to the whole puzzle. Jesus' baptism isn't about him repenting for some sin he didn't commit. It is his public inauguration. It's the moment he steps forward and formally accepts his mission to be Isaiah's servant, the one who's going to bring this liberating judgment to the entire world.
And check this out. The voice from heaven confirms it by doing something brilliant. It fuses two completely separate identities into one person. The phrase, "This is my son," was a royal title for the expected Messiah king. But the second part, "In whom I find my joy," that is a direct quote from Isaiah's prophecy about the gentle Messiah's servant. So in one single sentence, God announces that the king and the servant are the exact same person.
So to sum it all up, his baptism does three huge things. 1. He publicly accepts his identity and his mission. 2. By getting in line with everybody else, he shows this radical solidarity. He's not standing apart from the people he came to save. He's standing right there with them. And 3. He becomes the head of a new kind of people. A people who are now defined by joining him on this mission of liberation.
And that, of course, leaves us with a final, really powerful question. If all this is true, if baptism is less about a private deal for your own personal salvation and more about a public enlistment in a global mission of liberation, well, what does that change about how we see our own role in the world? What does it mean for us to be part of that prison break today?